Let me paint a picture of exactly what your life probably looks like right now. You wake up with massive intentions. Today is the day you finally start. You can see yourself succeeding and you imagine the life you want so clearly it feels real. But then you pick up your phone. You scroll for just a few minutes, which kind of turns into an hour, and suddenly half the day is gone. You tell yourself you'll start after lunch, lunch passes, you feel tired, so you push it to tomorrow. And then at night, you lie in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling an intense, crushing guilt. You absolutely know you're capable of more, but you ended another day doing absolutely nothing toward your goals. Welcome to the psychology of the ambitious but stuck.
Okay, let's dive into this, because you are not alone in this cycle. And more importantly, this freeze response you're feeling, it's not about you being a bad person. It has absolutely nothing to do with a lack of intelligence, and it is definitely not a lack of talent. This is entirely about psychology. What you're experiencing are deeply ingrained psychological patterns in your brain that have been built up over months, maybe even years. You know you need to move, but you are physically and mentally paralyzed.
You've likely labeled yourself as lazy, right? You think you just lack discipline. But what you actually are is in survival mode. I need you to hear this loud and clear. Your brain is not broken. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do.
Section 1. The brain's conflict. Dreams versus discomfort.
And this brilliantly illustrates the constant battle going on inside your head. You're living in a constant state of neurological conflict between your big dreams and a primitive brain that craves safety. When you think about working on your goals, your brain literally registers that effort as a threat. It sees uncertainty and goes into full panic mode. So it offers you a much easier option. Scroll social media, watch videos, play games. When you do that, you get a hit of dopamine. You feel better instantly. The discomfort disappears, and your brain learns a very dangerous lesson. Avoiding your goals feels good.
But here's the brutal reality. While your brain genuinely thinks it's protecting you from short-term pain, it is systematically stealing your long-term happiness. Every single day you choose discomfort, you're cementing a habit of avoidance. Worse than that, you're actively teaching your brain that your dreams do not actually matter to you. And every night when that familiar guilt creeps in, you're just reinforcing a toxic underlying belief that you simply aren't good enough to achieve what you want.
Now, you're probably thinking right now that if you just watched enough hype videos to get motivated, everything would change. But let me stop you there. Motivation is a lie, and here's what actually works. Listen, motivation is just a feeling, and feelings come and go with the wind. You absolutely cannot build a successful life on a foundation of temporary feeling.
Amateurs sit around waiting to feel inspired. Professionals rely on rigid structure and systems. You've got to stop viewing discipline as some magical genetic trait that successful people are born with and you aren't. Discipline is just a habit. It's something you build, block by block, one tiny, uncomfortable decision at a time.
Section 2. The perfectionism trap. Waiting for ready.
You have such a crystal clear vision of success that anything less feels like a catastrophic failure. But here is the brutal truth. Perfect never comes, and ready never comes. Perfectionism is fear disguised as excellence. Waiting for the perfect plan is just your brain's cleverest excuse to never actually start, because your brain knows the ultimate cheat code. If you never start, you can never, ever fail.
So the crucial point is this underlying paralyzing fear that you probably might not want to admit. You are terrified that if you actually try your absolute hardest and it still doesn't work out, you will have to face the devastating reality that maybe you aren't as special as you thought. Maybe your ideas aren't that good. It is so much safer to stay in your fantasy, imagining your success, without ever actually testing it in the real world.
But you've got the equation completely wrong. Failure is not the opposite of success. Inaction is the true opposite of success. When you fail, you gain data, you learn something, and you adapt. When you do absolutely nothing, you learn absolutely nothing. Every single successful person you admire has failed more times than you have even tried. The only difference is they took imperfect action anyway.
Section 3. Rewiring the brain. Systems over willpower.
To rewire your brain from a dreamer to an executor, you have to realize that successful people do not possess superhuman willpower. They just have significantly better systems. The street-level tactic here is environment design. Your environment is controlling you. If your phone is next to you, you are going to check it. You need to make the default action the productive action. Turn off notifications, physically remove your phone from the room, clear the mess off your desk, and violently protect your focus time. Make it harder to be distracted than it is to focus.
0.
That is the exact number of extra decisions you should have to make when it's time to work. Every single time you remove a distraction from your environment, you are removing a decision. And every decision you don't have to make preserves precious mental energy that you can directly channel into actually executing your goals. And we need to call out the elephant in the room right now. You reading endless productivity articles, listening to motivational podcasts, and yes, even watching explainers like this one right now. It feels incredibly productive, doesn't it? But it's not. It is just another sneaky form of avoidance. It's your brain tricking you into believing that learning about doing the work is the exact same as actually doing the work. You don't need more information. You already know what to do.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 4, the emotional peak, the power of radical self-compassion.
When you finally do start, your first attempts are going to be terrible. The reality of progress is that it's not a straight upward line. You will produce a bad draft on day 1, feel intense resistance on day 2, and inevitably fall back into old comfortable patterns by day 3. That is completely normal. The secret isn't that successful people never mess up, it's that they acknowledge the setback and immediately return to the work.
If you want to sustain this, you have to stop beating yourself up. Guilt and shame are terrible motivators. Lying in bed hating yourself only deepens the cycle of avoidance. You have to replace that toxic cycle with radical self-compassion. Forgiving yourself isn't letting yourself off the hook, it's simply giving yourself permission to try again tomorrow without the crushing, paralyzing weight of yesterday's failures. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how crucial it is to separate your identity from your actions. Lazy is not who you are. Lazy is what you have been doing. Who you are is someone with immense potential with real dreams. What you have been doing is simply running a neurological program to avoid discomfort. Once you separate your worth from this psychological pattern, you finally gain the power to break it. This right here is your formula for lasting change. Ambition means absolutely nothing if it stays a fantasy in your head. You must build the discipline to take action even when your brain is screaming at you to seek comfort. You must pair that discipline with the grace and self-compassion to handle your inevitable stumbling blocks. And you spark this entire process with just one ridiculously small step to build momentum.
So here is your psychological wake-up call. Nobody is coming to save you from yourself. Stop planning for a magical tomorrow that will literally never arrive. Stop waiting to feel perfectly ready. I want you to close this explainer right now, put your phone in another room, and go take one tiny, imperfect action toward your goal immediately. Stop consuming and start executing. Are you going to let your primitive brain win another day, or are you finally going to start?